All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Loudmouth MMA Podcast. Today, another breakdown. This time, it is UFC Oklahoma, a card personally. Everyone can have their own opinions, but personally, one that I've been actually looking forward to for a while. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC. Not many people know this, but one of my favorite fighters is Michael Chiesa, and that's also one of the guys who got me into the sport of all things. I know that's weird, and I'll explain the story at some point if somebody wants me to, but yeah, Michael Chiesa, one of the fighters who got me into the sport. So, I want to introduce the people who are on the Breakdown Show every week. First off, Shaun Ihaz, our DraftKings correspondent. How does that sound?
That sounds great, especially after last week. I feel like I actually earned the title.
Hey, man, how we both did well. I had that's one of my best weeks last week.
Yeah, the $20 3-entry max, I came in 8th and 9th.
Good job, man.
And I cashed everywhere in cash. It was a good week, and I locked in on a few guys, and it was right. And you know, I ended up playing Ulka Sasaki in 2 of those lineups and hit big. There
you go. Listen, if you guys would have taken our DraftKings team, you would have done extremely well. You would have done extremely well.
Yeah, Kyle.
Yeah, I fudged that one up, but everybody would have done pretty well if you'd have used the DraftKings team that we made live on the show. Had you literally just had you just played that team without asking any questions, you would have made money. Period. So there you go.
So hopefully we'll do
it again.
The same. I do want to preface this whole episode with last week I felt super confident. And there are a few fights this week I'm confident, but every fight you want to feel confident in, there's some, what I hate is there's some intangible, some away from the video breakdown element, and we'll cover them all as we go through it, that just bugs the crap out of me.
Yeah. All right, before we go any further here, let's introduce Kobe. Kobe, how's it going, man?
It's going excellent, my friend, and I like how you alluded to Chiesa getting you into the sport and him being one of your favorite fighters. Same could be said with BJ Penn for me, and I'm one of my all-time favorite fighters. Now, you're probably not going to think so after you hear my breakdown, but I do tell you, I respect the man, and he is one of the all-time greats. And I love those intangibles Shaun mentioned. They're the often forgotten components and keys to fights that ultimately help you determine the winner.
Awesome. Kobe,
there's some annoying ones.
Before we even get started, man, Kobe, did you do any breakdowns for any of these fights, or are you just focusing on the pay-per-views?
No, right now, just due to time constraints, because sometimes I'm looking at 10 hours plus for an individual breakdown, I've elected to do 5 big pieces for UFC 213.
Nice.
So for cards like this, I'm just going to focus on doing breakdowns with you guys.
Awesome, man. All right, let's get started. The first fight on the main card. The main card this week, by the way, guys, starts at 9 and not 10, and it is on a Sunday. It is on a Sunday. If you're not aware of that yet, surprise, it's on a Sunday. Bellator is on Saturday, their first pay-per-view in a very long time. We might talk about that briefly when we get done with all this stuff. But okay, first fight on the main card is BJ Penn versus Dennis Siver, a fight that would have been a hell of a lot more interesting. Actually, I don't know, because BJ Penn would have never fought Dennis Siver, 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever. But yeah, this fight has kind of Bellator written all over it. This feels like a Bellator fight. In fact, on this pay-per-view, this fight probably would have, fit right in there on that co-main. BJ Penn, Dennis Siver, I don't doubt that for 1 minute. The big storyline here, of course, you got 2 aging fighters. BJ Penn, when he made his, quote, comeback, looked like dog shit against Yair Rodriguez, for a lack of better terminology there. It just looked absolutely horrendous and basically looked how everybody thought he was going to look. He has not won a fight since, I'm not even looking at it, but I'm going to say 2013.
2010.
Oh, wow, 2010.
Matt Hughes.
Even worse than what I was thinking. So, yeah, I mean, that's the main storyline here. I mean, not much else to say on my end. Let's just kick it over. We all know who these people are. If you've been watching the UFC for any amount of time, you know who BJ Penn is. You know who Dennis Siver is. There's really not much to say. I'm going to kick it over to Kobe to give us an actual breakdown here.
Well, I do think there's lots to say, and there's one question ultimately that we should all be asking, and that is why. When BJ Penn finally turned the keys over to Jackson Winklejohn, when he finally said, here, take these. I can't make these decisions anymore. I'm driving my career into the floor. I don't want any part of it. I want you guys to take over. They chose this matchup with Dennis Siver that for once, if the guy absolutely had to fight, if it had to be done, this was the right matchup. And for whatever reason, the handlers and people around BJ Penn that are supposed to love and care about this guy allowed him to fight Yair Rodriguez, a competition and bout where he stood absolutely zero chance. More concerningly, almost delusional, stating that he wanted to see what was left in the tank, that maybe there could be one more title run. Who around BJ Penn is co-signing these things? What is Jason Perillo telling this guy throughout the process of getting ready for the fight with Yair Rodriguez? 38 years old. We said the last win came in 2010 over the ghost of Matt Hughes. There was a draw with John Fitch in 2011. That's when it was done. Completely over. Somebody in his life signed off on him going back to 170 because he didn't want to fight Frankie Edgar anymore. And this is where things got beyond ugly and essentially dangerous. You had the fight with Nick Diaz and Rory McDonald, 2 bouts where he absorbed over 300 significant strikes. They beat the living fucking piss out of BJ Penn. The unbreakable BJ Penn stood in there, toughed it out, made it to the cards. He finished those fights, but that was it. His chin was gone after that fight. Then faced Frankie Edgar again and got railroaded. And then the fight with Yair, very late stoppage, tons of damage. This guy's had traumatic brain injury after traumatic brain injury. This is absolutely fucking ridiculous. This guy should not be fighting. There's nothing left to prove. I am absolutely confident, without a shadow of a doubt, this is just a desperation move for him to try and get his hand raised one more time so he can call it a day. I think ultimately he wants to go out on a W. Now, Siver actually has 6 bonuses. He hasn't fought since 2015. He was on a 2-fight slide. We've seen what happened with McGregor. Then he went to the cards with Kawajiri. He's actually 11-10 in the UFC. BJ Penn only has 12 wins inside the octagon. So let that sink in for a moment, right? Dennis Siver, a German kickboxing champion, 1997. At this point, none of it makes any sense. Whoever cares about BJ Penn and loves BJ Penn should be begging this man to get the fuck out of the octagon because he has a beautiful wife, he has a family, he's rich, he's got all the things he could want in the world, but the warrior within is grasping onto this guy, and it's got him, and like I said, in a place where he could get killed. We just lost Tim Hague, R.I.P. BJ Penn could be the next to go. This guy can absolutely take no more punishment. I really, really do wish from the bottom of my heart that he wasn't doing this, because we could see this guy eating and living out of a diaper when he's 50 years old. So the fight makes absolutely no sense to me. I could care less who wins or loses. I just hope BJ Penn doesn't get critically injured inside that cage come the weekend.
Well said, man. So one of the things you alluded to, which is, of all the fights that BJ Penn could possibly take, I'm glad it's this one. I wish it was this one. Again, I'm just saying what you said. You know, I wish that this was the fight that he took instead of Yair Rodriguez, which I think that's what they were trying to do. If you remember the chain of events, I think this was one of the first fights they were trying to book. This might have been the original one they were trying to book. And then they tried to book him against like Ricardo Lamas or something, which was absolutely absurd. And then they're going to try to put him up against Cole Miller, which made more sense than Ricardo Lamas, but not necessarily by a whole bunch. And then they wound up landing on Yair, which is just, what in the world? I mean, I don't know. They must have saw something. I mean, Frankie Edgar just dominated him, so maybe that camp saw something. I don't know. But anyway, of all fights, I'm glad it's this one. I don't think Dennis Siver is going to go in there and put the hurting on BJ Penn. I'm not terribly concerned. Again, anybody who says that they have a good read on this and is like, yeah, I know it's going to be this, run in the other direction as fast as you possibly can, because that person is trying to swindle you out of money. There's no way that anybody has some great read on this. It's two guys who shouldn't even be fighting in the first place. So I don't have a read. I think BJ Penn can win this. Dennis Seaver hasn't been very good ever, and he certainly hasn't been very good recently. But, I mean, good Lord, BJ Penn hasn't won in 7 years. So, I mean, it's hard to even – I don't even know. What a weird fight. Was I at least onto something when I said this fight should have been on Bellator?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, you look at BJ Penn, like we could sit here honestly and talk about all of the accomplishments, the fantastic.
None of them even matter anymore. None of them even matter.
Exactly. It's so far in the fucking rear view.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. I mean, what are we left with here? Why are we doing this? And I really do hope that the people around BJ Penn, one more time, get this guy out of there and sit him down and tell him it's over, because I just don't think – I mean, you have to have someone in your life that tells you what you don't want to hear. Instead of me having 5,000 people online give me constructive criticism for my podcast, I have my ex-grappling coach who tells me the things I don't want to hear, and I listen. And BJ Penn needs that person in his life.
Shaun, do you have anything you want to add before we move on?
I have a great read on this fight, and that I will have absolutely no money invested in it anyway.
Look at you. Was that your inner dad joke coming out?
That was.
There it is, buddy. Congratulations. You've been a father now for, about 6 months?
5 months. And you know what? I'm embracing it. I've always loved wearing cargo shorts, and now I can just say, yeah, I'm a dad. I don't give a fuck.
There you go, man. I need a lot of pocket space for, carrying around trinkets. All right, but hey, why don't you get us into this next fight, Shaun? This is the Tim Means Alex Garcia fight. Tim Means, of course, coming off of the the no contest against Cowboy Oliveira, and then where he was winning that fight, but Shaun properly called that fight and said, "Hey guys, don't buy into it. Don't buy into it. Tim Means is going to go in there. He's going to lose." Shaun, I'm sure you remember this very clearly.
I made a lot of money on this.
You did.
DraftKings.
So I'm glad you got this fight. Are you having the same read? He's fighting Alex Garcia. There's not necessarily a whole lot to say. I did read where Alex Garcia said publicly that he was upset that he was not fighting a better fighter, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's weird.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting statement. This is the guy who. Well, either way, I'll let you break it down. But yeah, I mean, he's coming off a pretty impressive win over Mike Pyle. I mean, Mike Pyle's
Pyle.
It's Mike Pyle, exactly. It's Mike Pyle. He had only had one win before that one in the last 5 or 6 fights. So it's not terribly shocking. But yeah, Shaun, go ahead and break this one down for us.
When I was looking at this fight, a lot of this card I've gone to. I mean, I always listen to other podcasts and sources and pick people's brains, but there's a lot of fights on this card that initially I was stuck in the middle on, and I was surprised at how much love Tim Means is getting, and that's coming from a guy who I was super surprised. Everyone thought, everyone saw what happened against Cowboy and was all over him again. I'm like, watch the other 3 minutes of the fight. Watch the rest of Tim Means' fights. He's 6-3 in the UFC. Alex Garcia is 4-2. But Tim Means' his last 2 wins are against Sabah Hamasi and John Howard. Is that really doing it for people? I can't wrap my head around. So many people I've seen are so confident in him. The line on this fight, by the way, Tim Means is a minus 240 favorite, and Alex Garcia is at plus 200. We'll get to DraftKings later, but that means Means is way up towards the top and Garcia down at the bottom. I don't understand the heavy lean on Means. I think this is a close fight. I think if Means does his best work in the clinch, making fights dirty. The problem is Alex Garcia is a powerful wrestler. Means can be taken down. I don't know where people are getting off to his great takedown defense. It's okay, but I think Garcia can take him down. The issue on Garcia's side is that he throws wild, heavy, he swings for the fucking fences. And he's a big, muscular dude at 170. So the other issue is if we get past a round and a half, 2 rounds, I don't know what he's going to have left in the gas tank unless he's taken Tim Means down. And Alex Garcia, this is his second fight at TriStar. Is he going to become a point fighter? I'm hoping for his sake, if he goes to a lay and pray type attack, which is point fighting on the ground, he can win this fight. I think it's a much closer fight than the lines. Alex Garcia, by the way, has 4.71 takedowns per fight in the UFC. And Tim Means has got 59% takedown defense. Again, it's a little below average, I think, in the UFC. I think average defense is 60 to 65%. Correct me if I'm mistaken there. But it's okay takedown defense. It's not great. Garcia, by the way, has been in the cage. He went to the cards with Neil Magny. There's just, again, it's an interesting matchup because they're going to end up in the clinch, and it's can Garcia get a takedown? If he can't, and they have to strike in the clinch, it's Means. In terms of betting, I don't have a great I can't say for sure this is what I think is going to happen, but I would dog or pass for me. I think Garcia can very easily win this fight. I don't understand the overconfidence I'm seeing in people in Tim Means. I think it's a close fight, so I'll take the dog or pass on this one.
People just have always loved Tim Means. I mean, that's really
I don't get it.
People just always loved him. I don't know. I mean, I find myself kind of falling into that trap too. It's just he's so, especially when he's fighting at 155, he was just so massive. You know, not even massive like, I don't know. In fact, Alex Garcia is going to be the stronger guy in there, but he's such an imposing looking figure because of how tall he is, you know, and at that weight class. And then, he, you know, Dirty Bird, you know, he has a tendency to make fights really ugly and point fight. And kind of what you're saying, I think Garcia, the risk with him is that if Tim can make it dirty, what's Garcia going to look like in the third round? You know,
unless he's been laying on him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, which very well could happen. So
there are so few dogs in this card that I think are live that Garcia being a live dog immediately interests me.
Yeah. Kobe, is there anything you want to add to this fight, or do you want to move on?
No, just very quickly, Shaun had mentioned the 4.71 takedowns per fight. It should be noted that he's executing at almost 63%. And when you look at the strength of wrestlers Means has faced, he has not done well against the stronger wrestlers. So that's definitely an intangible I'd be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alex Garcia is firmly in DraftKings play here. Because I think that Tim Means is going to have this weird overinflation because of his name. But again, we'll get to that when we get there. All right, well, let's talk about this next fight. And Kobe, maybe you can help me with this because I don't know a lot about Dominic Reyes. So I'm interested in
You've seen one of his videos everywhere.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean, is that why he has all the hype? I mean, I don't know a lot about him. And he is the biggest favorite on the card, or at least he was at one point. I don't know if he still is, but at one point he was the biggest favorite on the entire card. So, I mean, without telling me how bad Christensen is, because like that's why he's the biggest favorite is because Christensen is just that terrible. I mean, he's awful. I mean, he's one of the worst fighters in the UFC. I mean, honestly, and I don't feel bad about saying that. So, is that why Reyes is such a favorite here, or I mean, have you learned something by watching tape on him?
No, the reason Reyes is such a heavy favorite here is as follows. Now, before we get any further, I'm putting $100 down on Christensen. Like we have said, he's 1-2 in the UFC. He's been sub twice. Okay, he's got 5 wins by KO, 5 subs, 7 first-round finishes. Here's the thing: look a little fucking deeper. Reyes is 6-0 as a professional and 6-0 as an amateur. So when you look on paper, you see this 12-0 record. Let's put the fucking Hubble telescope over this 6-0 record. Last victory over Jordan Powell, 8-7. Marcus Gauvin, 3-1. Tyler Smith, 1-1. Kelly Gray, 4-5.
As you're talking, I'm that little green frog right now sipping my tea. I'm sipping my tea.
Jesse Glass is 0-8. Jose Rivas 1-2. Opponents with a combined record of 17-24. Even if you go back to the Ami fights, and there were 6, 3 of them were debuts. One guy was 2-4. This record is beyond fucking padded. This guy is not a super strong grappler. If he was really good on the ground, if there was a strong wrestling game there, I probably wouldn't wager this bet. But he's really a guy that likes to stand. Christensen is a 76-inch reach. He can strike, but this is another one of those situations where you don't know how these guys got in the UFC. And if 6-0 got you there, Look at the fucking combined record. One more time. 17-24. I didn't watch a second of tape. There is no need.
That's incredible. And listen, as you were saying that, I said I was sipping the green frog sipping the tea, which by green frog I mean Kermit. Who calls Kermit a green frog? Who does that? I'm actually drinking Kobe a Labatt Blue. So there you go.
Right on.
I was thinking about you. I was at Kroger today, and we were buying food to grill out. Today, of course, is the first day of summer. And I was in the beer aisle. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get some Labatt Blue. That way, I can feel like I'm in touch with Kobe.
I'm gonna be ripping Canada. I'm gonna be ripping Canada in a little bit.
I bet, and I bet you I can tell you why. We'll get there when we get to it. Alrighty, so okay, I guess let's really make sure we get this fight right, because Christensen is a huge underdog. So I mean, let's make sure.
Way,
go ahead.
Horcher and Reyes are tied as of right now at -400 as the biggest favorite.
Reyes is a -400. I mean, Christensen is a huge underdog here. So
I don't get it.
Did you watch any film, Shaun, on Reyes?
Tiny bit, and he sucks. He's fighting, he's going, and he's just throwing crazy.
So he's just going to stand.
He's not knocking out regional cans. That's what it looks like. Just Christensen is bad, but I do believe Christensen he's a very low level UFC guy or a high level regional guy. I think he's in that stuck in between phase.
Sure.
I don't think Reyes is even at that point, because Christensen he went to the second round against Da Silva and got subbed, but they were gassed, and he did, at least he beat Bojan Mihailovic. So
yeah,
he's got a UFC win.
Right. Granted, it was against him.
Mihailovic.
But still, I mean,
I'll lay the price for the price.
I don't know. I know. I think I'm going to go lay some scratch on him, man. Honestly.
Now, if he goes out and shits the bed, I won't be totally surprised. But if you're
sure.
going to give me a live dog,
Christensen is terrible.
325,
guys. Christensen, do not take this as an endorsement. Nobody, nothing that Kobe said, Shaun said, or I said. When I'm talking to the fans here, nothing that any of us said is an endorsement for Christensen. I don't think any of us think that Christensen is very good. So no, this is all about you have a guy who's coming in super overhyped. Reyes is really overhyped. And
he actually, by the way, he fought 3 weeks ago. And my stats here, his last 3 fights have lasted a combined 2 minutes and 55 seconds.
Man, this kind of feels, man. I'm laying some scratch on Christensen.
Here's where it can backfire, though.
Sure.
Okay, because what these coaches do
Christensen sucks.
Is they get these, just like Reyes' coaches, right? They get these cans or guys that aren't very good, and they build confidence. And that grows and builds and grows and builds. And then in turn, when it comes time to turn the bright lights on, if they're a performer and they're really good inside the cage, like it ultimately translates into them looking great.
Sure.
But when I look at these opponents, there's also, and I think, a greater chance that a guy looks really, really good against subpar competition, but then once they're in there against somebody that's of greater skill value, or we haven't seen Reyes tested. I don't need to watch fucking tape. I'm just going to examine these records, and I know what's going on here. I think his coaches did a great fucking job, because guess what? They got him in the UFC.
Yep. Well, and now the other thing that could be happening as well is they intentionally were saying, okay, let's book fights against cans, that way he gets out of there quickly. Right, but at the end of the day, he's going to be able to hang when the time comes. He just hasn't had,
or no good prospects wanted to fight him.
Sure, that you could have that too. Well, I was going to say like last week with Colby Covington, right? One of my points with Colby Covington was he's never beaten a top guy because he hasn't fought one of them yet. But as soon as he fights them, you're going to see that he's able to hang, and not only was he able to hang, but he looked pretty dominant. So you could see something like that where what Shaun said, nobody wanted to fight him. Right? Or B, his coaches are intentionally setting up fights where he could try to get highlight reel shit. Right? But at the end of the day, knowing, hey, he's going to be able to hang once to get in there. But I mean, there's so much speculation there. And when you're talking about that much speculation and you're a -400, get out of here. Get out of here. There's way too much speculation.
Cheapest fighter on DraftKings. That's all I
Yeah,
gotta
man,
say.
that's all I got to say, too. All right, let's move on to Felice Herrig, Justine Kish. Two fighters who I'm a big fan of. I like both of these fighters. We got to talk about Felice Herrig. Jesus
Holy
Christ.
shit.
I saw that thing that you
right?
just sent me. Yeah, Kobe, did you see that picture that Shaun sent to our Facebook?
Yeah,
Messenger
better
group?
hope she does. Better hope she doesn't piss hot.
Hey, man, that's nuts. That's crazy. You guys we need to post that picture to the Loudmouth page and show everybody, because that is insane. Taken directly from her Instagram.
Yeah, I apologize. That was probably a tad bit inappropriate. That could very well be hard work. So I didn't mean anything.
It looks like she's gonna piss hot. Get out of here. That's what it looks like. It looks like she was on something. That's crazy for her to be able to lose that kind of weight in how many weeks? 12 weeks?
Different human being, man.
I mean, she does. She looks like an entirely different human. It's nuts. I mean, good for her. If that's just straight hard work, good for her. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is just straight hard work. But I mean, goodness gracious. But Justine Kish, I know she hasn't done a whole lot yet. But I've liked her. I've liked her for quite some time. And she also trains with one of my boys, Dylan Calla. So, yeah, I do like her. Man, this is
she's undefeated.
So yeah, and this is a tough fight though. This is a very, very tough fight for her.
Go watch that fight.
I know.
Out there. Nina Ansaroff was a good scrap.
It was, and basically she just won because of the groundwork. You know, getting more takedowns and doing a little bit more once they're on the ground. And that was really about it. That was a close fight. You know, making her debut, on a UFC pay-per-view. Under the bright lights. So a good pay-per-view too, if I remember correctly. What was it? UFC 195. Yeah, that was a decent one.
I can't remember. Yeah, maybe.
But anyway, I don't remember who's breaking this one down.
That's me.
Well, give it to me.
Now I got to look this up real quick. It was UFC. She made her debut. Oh, of course. I clicked on Felice Herrig because I have Felice Herrig on the brain right now.
It's UFC. It's
UFC
195.
It was 195.
Yeah.
Yep. Nina Ansaroff, by the way, is someone to watch at 115. She's going to have an interesting year, and she's going to get opportunity because she's the, I believe, fiance now of Amanda Nunes.
Yep.
So that'll be really interesting. But as far as breaking this down, Felice Herrig in that fight against overhyped Alexa Grasso, and I fell into that trap. I will admit it. I was on the Grasso bandwagon, and Felice Herrig smoked her as a plus 315 underdog. Herrig's 3-1 in the UFC. Her only loss to Paige Van Zandt, which now looks like a really, really shitty loss.
Yeah, but Paige was doing that to people, which now it doesn't make sense.
But the jump in Herrig's game, even from the Kaylin Curran fight, which was a one-round submission, to the Grasso fight, I was really impressed with her improvement, especially on the ground. Like the more I watch Felice Herrig, the more I'm noticing improvement in her ground game and her grappling. And Justine Kish, for as good as that fight was with Ansaroff, and her win over Randa Marcos, she's open for subs. She's liable to stick an arm somewhere it shouldn't be, and Herrig will get a submission. She has the sub game. Felice Herrig, it's a really even fight, and luckily for me as a DraftKings player, I don't think the output's going to be high enough. I really don't. Kish is the more active fighter, but her defense is both women don't have great defense. I think the tiebreak in this fight is going to be Herrig should be able to get a takedown if she wants it, and I don't know if Kish is going to be able to get up. If Kish can keep it standing in at range, I think she might have a slight edge on the feet. But I think Herrig is the all-around more seasoned MMA fighter, so I'm leaning Herrig. It is a really close fight. I think the grappling's the thing that puts it over the edge for me. I won't have a bet on this fight, and I'm probably going to avoid on DraftKings. So take that for what you will. I'm going to roll with Felice Herrig in terms of pick 'em.
Well, what are the chances you think that this fight goes to the ground? I would say 80%.
I'm going to go closer to 50-50 because I think Herrig should take it to the ground. The problem is when there's a stand-up advantage in the women's division and in the 125-pound men. I find because there's not a ton of power in the shots, even if there's a small advantage in the feet, the person doesn't realize they're losing and doesn't shoot for the takedown. And you spend 5 minutes yelling, shoot for a takedown, clinch, do fucking something. Yeah. Don't just, get outpointed. Well, Kish could just outpoint her slightly for 3 rounds. Could.
So yeah, to me, that's what it comes down to is if you think that there's a high percentage chance that the fight goes to the ground, you're really going to want to lean Felice here. If you think that someone like Kish is going to be able to keep the fight standing and keep it at range, you're going to want to lean Kish. So, yeah,
what camp is Felice Herrig out of? Do you happen to know, Kobe? You're the camp guy, because
I honestly don't. It's actually something I don't focus on.
Isn't she an American Top Team?
If she is, then I'm jumped because those guys.
Why am I
game
thinking?
Plan phenomenal.
Well, do not take me. Do not take me up my word.
I'm going to Tapology.
Yeah,
Tapology says Team Curran MMA.
No. She's moved camps. She's moved camps somewhat recently. We're supposed to know this stuff. I think. Why did I think that she was training with Joanna? Why am I thinking that?
She's always. I thought she was. She's BFFs with Esparza, who's also on this card.
Fighting out of. Yeah, it just says Team Curran. Oh, you know what?
Interesting.
You know what? I'm 100% sure it's Team Curran. Do you know why? Because when I interviewed Daryl Horcher, he trains out of Team Curran, and he was telling me he was training with Felice Herrig. So I'm 100% positive that's where she was.
Kish is Black House MMA for sure.
Yeah, she trains with Dylan Calla, who's going to be in her corner, I think, this weekend. If you guys haven't seen Dylan Calla, you should go check him out. I think he's going to be in the UFC in another fight or two here.
I really like that Black House gym. I know we're on a tangent, but that Black House gym, I like guys. I've
Didn't Travis Brown train over there?
Yeah, Alvin Morales goes there at least part of the time.
Yep.
I like his mindset a lot. So it's an interesting gym.
Do you have anything you want to add to this one, Kobe?
Yeah, I'll be very quick because I thought Shaun hit the nail right on the head when he talked about the ground. And here's the thing. I had Justine Kish on my show. She was born in an orphanage. It was a victim of bullying in Russia. She found a family that took her in, and she had trouble as a child and found the support. She has an innate toughness inside her that cannot be duplicated or replicated. She is fucking tough as nails. The problem with Justine Kish, in my opinion, is bad habits. And this is why I'm not big on Thai boxing and MMA or Thai boxing adapted to fit the sport of MMA. There's a lot of you go, I go, and crashing of space. They're so comfortable, and it becomes such a habit to throw some strikes and then just engage in the clinch. They wind up closing distance for themselves. And another thing Shaun said, which I really liked, was the striking defense. Kish is absorbing 4.3 significant strikes here per minute, and the defense is just, the rate is 53%. And when she hits the ground, she can show some great technique as a grappler, but will get in positions where she tries to muscle herself out of positions. Now, sometimes it works because she's very, very strong. I expect her to have a good physical advantage over Felice Herrig, but bad habits can cost you fights. So there are some liabilities and assets with Justine Kish, but when it comes to toughness, I definitely give her the edge.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to Tim Boetsch, Johnny Hendricks, Kobe. This is a fight where I think people are going to be shocked when they see the size difference here. You know, Tim Boetsch isn't necessarily that much taller. He isn't even necessarily that much longer. I mean, I think he has about a 5-inch reach. I think he's just about 3 inches taller, give or take. You know, but it's gonna be very reminiscent of what we saw with Tarek Safady and RDA. You know, I think there's gonna be they're gonna sizably look very different. But for me personally, of all fights for Johnny Hendricks to take next in the 185, honestly, this is probably about it. I mean, really. I mean,
they're doing a good job.
Yeah, they're doing a very good job. I mean, this fight makes a lot of sense. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think he's definitely way too big or way too small. He was too small for 170. You know, just his body build would not allow him to even do it anymore. But yeah, I'm I am excited for this fight. I think this fight's going to be pretty cool. I hope Johnny Hendricks can pull it off. I'm kind of pulling for him a little bit. So yeah, that's my piece. Kobe, break it down for me though.
You absolutely nailed it. Size is 100% the X factor, and this is the right fight for both guys. Instead of Hendricks going out there at $185, beating Hector Lombard, and then back to the fucking Sharks in the top of the division, they keep him middle of the road here. Now, Bochat will have a 5-inch reach advantage. The takedown defense is only 58%. He's 36. He's got good wrestling. He's got a heart. He's got a good chin. We did see him get submitted by Jacare. He fought 3 times in 2016. He was 2-1, 2 finishes. He lost to Ed Herman. I mean, he's not I like Ed Herman, not a real high-level guy. That capped a 3-fight slide. 21 fights inside the octagon. Tim Boetsch is 11-10 in the UFC. Really a 500 fighter, and in my opinion, peaked between 2011 2012 when he beat Okami and Lombard. That was when we seen the 4-fight win streak. And he is a 4-time state champion with the wrestling, a high school All-American. He had a 4-year varsity wrestler at LHU, NCAA Division I. With Hendricks, we know that the wrestling is all he has to lean on now. He was a very, very dangerous guy when he packed all that size and muscle because the threat of the takedown allowed him to pitch those fucking sledgehammers that are gone. He hooked up with Lou Giordano. He got on this weight management system. He lost all this size. He moved up a weight class and gained none of it back. It's fucking crazy. There's 4 takedowns a fight at 48% accuracy. That's very good. We've seen the 3-fight slide. A 4-time Division I All-American, 2-time Division I national champion. He was the former welterweight champion. He is not the same fucking guy. He's had 2 6-fight win streaks in the UFC, but he's 33 years old. Like you said, size is the X factor. Can Johnny Hendricks grind it out for 3 rounds, find a way to take Tim Boetsch down, and just get out of there with the decision victory? I don't believe he carries the power in his hands anymore to knock anybody out, but if he's smart, he can do this right. He can get out of there with the win. I also don't think Tim Boetsch is a horrible underdog here either. I mean, there could definitely be some value. And with Hendricks, doesn't matter if it's 170 or 185. These weight cuts do a lot to that guy, both mentally and physically. But like you said, this is the right fight for both guys at their respective places in each other's career.
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to it's either going to be a really ugly Johnny Hendricks win or a very decisive, probably relatively quick Tim Boetsch win. And I don't think there's any in between. I think that's kind of what we're looking at. Shaun, is there anything you want to add?
I actually like Johnny Hendricks quite a bit.
I think I do too, honestly. Because, and sorry, let me interrupt you real quick, because I was thinking this as Kobe was talking, which is that, the reason why, Tim Boetsch is a 50-50 fighter, right? Or a 500 fighter, I guess we should say. He's a 500 type fighter. But one of the reasons why he's even at that 500 mark is because he's able to use that wrestling. Well, Johnny Hendricks kind of cancels that out a little bit. So one of the tools that you've used to get your wins, you're really not going to be able to use here. So it's really going to come down to Tim Boetsch has one way to win, which is, I think, getting that KO. And if he's not able to get that, that's pretty much it. So for me, when I don't just look at skill disparity, but I also look like, what are your tools to win versus what are this guy's tools to win? Johnny Hendricks has more tools here. He has more routes to take. Now, a lot of those routes are going to be real ugly and maybe not super fun to watch, but there's more of a pathway there. So I actually think I'm kind of in on Johnny Hendricks there too. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. I dug way back into the tape study for this one because I have the 3-unit bet down on Johnny Hendricks. And it came from after I watched Tim Boetsch and Mark Munoz. I think it was UFC 162, I think. Let me go back. Yeah. And Munoz took down Tim Boetsch 5 times in that fight and got a decision. Johnny Hendricks' chin, I mean, he got knocked out by Wonder Boy. Other than that, his chin is fine. He lost decisions to Magny and Gastelum. He didn't look terrible in that Gastelum fight. It wasn't pretty, but I thought he could have looked worse.
No, he held his own, I thought, personally. I thought he kind of just held his own.
give him any top 10 guy in 185, and there's going to be real problems. But I think they're building him to that place. I don't think Boch's power is there. He had that knockout win over Rafael Natal, and then he had his other win on my list here is Josh Salmon. I just, and then before that he was on a 3-fight losing streak. There's just nothing about Tim Boch.
The last Tim Boch beat Josh Samman in his last fight. That was Josh Samman's last fight.
Yep. So for me, it's the size disparity, and if Hendricks' chin can take a punch at 185. I think it can. I think he's got a real distinct wrestling advantage. I think he knows he needs to use it. I just see this being a fight in which Johnny Hendricks gets 4 or 5 takedowns, wears out Tim Boch, who I don't think the cardio's there. I actually see it as a relatively comfortable 30-27 win for Johnny Hendricks, unless Tim Boch. Now, the other way to go with it is Tim Boch could knock him out in 30 seconds. Those are the two things I feel like could happen.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, guys. We're going to move on to our main event here, but before we do so, I want to remind our listeners to please show me some support, show my sponsors some support. Go to glennavsoap.com, GLENNavsoap.com, and please check them out. Click on Shop, go into Shop Online, and look at the products. Again, I'm not even asking you guys to buy anything. Just go check it out. At least take a look, see if anything piques your interest. Look at their bar soaps, their bath bombs. They got beer soaps there. Their foaming hand soaps, I've already talked to you guys about. It's one of my favorite things they got. Custom soap dishes, skincare line, all of it natural, all of it organic. Please go check them out. It's also relatively inexpensive, especially for, being this type of product. I'll just tell you, like their bar soap, it's $5.99. For an organic bar soap, $5.99 is, I think, as inexpensive as you're ever going to find. So please go check them out. Even if you don't buy anything, go to the website, take a peek, and tell your friends. Let's get to the last fight. Michael Chiesa taking on Kevin Lee. Even without the press conference melee that took place, I think we were all very excited about this fight. Michael Chiesa doesn't necessarily fight that often, so I'm happy to see him back in the cage. This is a guy who's seemingly suffered chronic injuries. I love this fight, and I do not have a good read on it, and I feel personally invested in it, so I kind of have to back away from it, because anything I say is kind of worthless. I guess I'll tell you a little story. One of the first things that I ever kind of like UFC related things I watched was the season of The Ultimate Fighter that Michael Chiesa won. That was like one of the first things that I was like kind of watching it from, top to bottom, and I was like, man, I really love this stuff. It took me a little while to come back into it, but that season of The Ultimate Fighter, I think it was The Ultimate Fighter Live. Was it season 19? I don't remember. Do either of you guys know the season?
Was like 15 or 16.
I don't remember. Either way, I don't remember. But I was watching it from top to bottom, and before that, I'd never really seen anything in the UFC. And of course, that's the year that Michael Chiesa he lost his father while he was on the show. And I remember just being so invested in it. So, Michael Chiesa, man, I got you to thank for getting into the UFC, which is crazy. I feel like nobody else has that story. Okay. I don't have a great read on this fight. I think Kevin Lee is a little bit overhyped. But other than that, I also understand. What Kevin Lee just did in his last fight, I would have said was impossible. To go in there, not his last fight, but the fight before that. Well, really, the Trinaldo fight too. I didn't think anybody was going to be able to take Trinaldo out like that, and certainly not Mustaev. That was nuts. Did not see that coming at all. And, he took out Jake Matthews when Jake Matthews was still, pretty firmly entrenched in the hype train, too. And he didn't just take him out. He dismantled him in one round, landing 24 significant strikes with a takedown and 2 passes, in one round. It's nuts. So I understand the hype behind Kevin Lee, but I do think that he is a bit overblown here. And I feel like Michael Chiesa is going to stop the train. But like I said, I'm personally invested. So this is the main event. That's the most I'm going to talk about any fight for the rest of the card. I think, is this Shaun?
It is.
What's up?
I got the pleasure of watching these guys fight, and they were fun fights. And something to keep in mind and I didn't even remember this until I watched both Chiesa's last fight against Dariush and Lee's last fight against Ronaldo. Both of them were hurt pretty bad in the first round. They both ended up getting sub wins in round 2. Dariush had Chiesa hurt, and Ronaldo had Kevin Lee staggering around. So they both can be, and I didn't remember either of those things happening. And I watched and I went, oh, I think I watched Kevin Lee's fight first, and I went, that's interesting. I went and watched Chiesa Dariush, and the same thing happened. And both guys came out and got subs in round 2. These guys are so similar in style. They both takedowns. They can sub you, have, I think, solid stand-up. This fight comes down to intangibles because I think they're close in terms of technical skill. I think Lee might be a little bit below Chiesa because Chiesa has more experience, but Lee is just a freak athlete. Lee is the better athlete, and I think clearly Chiesa is the more experienced fighter. What's going to win out in this main event? For me, I like Michael Chiesa. I like the experience in the main events. It's tough because Lee, he just started training mixed martial arts at 21, and he has grown up so quick. But you also look at his wins, and the Trinaldo and Mustaev wins were good. Jake Matthews, I know he was hot at the time, but I'm going to discount that now.
It means nothing now, yeah.
Yeah, and he did get knocked out by Leonardo Santos. He beat Efren, and he beat Efren Uzcadero. Whereas you go and look at Chiesa's history.
Oh man,
he has a decision win. He has a decision win over Trinaldo. He's got a second round sub over Jim Miller, and he's got a second round sub. Obviously, the last fight against Dariush. That's no joke. Beneil Dariush is a really, really good lightweight. And he also went to win. He had that win to win the Ultimate Fighter, which is the win over Iaquinta.
He submitted
That's
him.
a great win too. There's just more octagon experience there. And I think they're dead even on the ground, I think, except that Chiesa, I think, is a little cagier, and I think Lee has the speed advantage on the feet.
My problem is that Kevin Lee is not going to want to keep it on the feet. My problem is that Kevin Lee is gonna get it to the ground where he's going to think he has the advantage because I think he thinks he has the advantage over everything. So he's going to go to the ground where he feels the most comfortable, and I think he's going to get subbed out. And because I think he's going to be underestimating it.
He's cocky after his signature win over a 38-year-old Trinaldo. Now Trinaldo, I didn't think that was going to happen either. I had Trinaldo in that fight, but and the last X factor is that Chiesa, he has a loss to Joe Lozon, which ended via injury, which is just weird.
Yeah.
Again, I'm taking the cage experience and I'm getting him as an underdog. I think that melee moved the odds, especially in the public eye. Chiesa's a plus 110 dog, and he's a little cheaper on DraftKings. I'm going to take Chiesa for the pick. I think one way or another, I really think this fight's going to end in a sub.
Me
in the
too.
middle round somewhere.
Me too. We're going to really see who the better guy is.
Someone's getting choked out, and I just think Chiesa is sneakier on the ground. Even if he's on his back, he can find a Darce, up against the cage that I think Lee might not feel coming. I think he's the better fighter and Lee's the better athlete with tons of potential. And give him a few more years, and Kevin Lee's going to be scary. So Agreed. I'm taking Chiesa, but it's a razor-thin fight. Anything
you want to say, Kobe?
Yeah, I think Shaun made very, very good points. And typically we see Kevin Lee with a pretty good reach advantage in most of his fights. Here he only has a 2-inch reach advantage. With Kevin Lee, you have some very special physical tools. There's no doubt about it. Athleticism, explosion, strength, all those things. But I like the grit, I like the toughness, and I like the heart of Michael Chiesa a little bit better. And I think Chiesa is also the stronger grappler, in my humble opinion. And I think you guys are bang on the money here. This thing might end on the floor. If I had to take a pick him here, I think I'd take Michael Chiesa. I think he's just a tougher guy right now, and I think that's going to show when these two meet.
Awesome. Well, let's go on to the prelims. For those of you who have not listened to, did not listen to last week's breakdown, we are doing the prelims a little different. We're switching on and off. We're both not going to, all three of us aren't going to talk about it or anything like that. We just want to kind of get through the prelims kind of quickly. The first fight on the prelims we're going to talk about is the Clay Guida. Eric, it is Coach, correct? Because I feel like everybody says it different. Coach, Coke.
I thought it was Coke, but I could be wrong.
I've heard it every different way. I'm pretty sure I've heard him say it 3 different ways. We're gonna say Coke because I actually think that is what it is, Coke. But anyway, I do want to say one thing with this fight. This is an honest to God true story, and I can't even. I wish I could explain to you why this even happened to me. So I was watching the Brian Ortega Clay Guida fight live, not like there, but you know what I mean. Like I was watching it on TV as it was happening, and Clay Guida was winning that fight. He won. In fact, he was up 2 rounds going into the third round.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because I thought Brian Ortega was going to dismantle Clay Guida. I was like, holy shit, Clay Guida is going to annihilate Clay Guida. Or Brian Ortega is going to annihilate Clay Guida. So it goes into it. It's going to the third round, and I'm like, holy shit, Clay Guida is hanging. He's hanging around. It's like maybe he wasn't up 2 rounds, but you know what I mean. Way closer going in that third round than it was ever supposed to be. Okay, and then he's winning the third round. True or false? He's winning the third round, and I'm like, oh my God, Clay Guida is about to win this fight against Brian Ortega. This is nuts. And then all of a sudden, crack, he gets caught. I hand to God, I'm not making this up, I cried. A tear came down my eye. I don't know why it affected me so much. Like I was watching it, even right now, I was like, oh, poor guy. Have you ever had that feeling watching a fight where you're just like, you're devastated for the person? I felt so devastated for Clay Guida.
Back in the day, I still am a big fan. I was totally a Chael Sonnen fanboy, so that Silva tap made me want to cry a little.
Yeah. Kobe, do you have one of those moments where you're watching a fight and you just felt devastated?
I don't want to say devastated, but when Mark Hominick took Jose Aldo down in the 5th round of that fight, there were 6 of us all joined arm in arms in my living room while he was throwing those big ground and pound shots, and I do think a salty tear may have rolled down my cheek.
Well, I bet you a lot of people who were huge Aldo fans, because man, trust me, when that Aldo Holloway fight, you know, when the ramp up to that one, a lot of Aldo people came out of the woodwork and were really shitty on Twitter. So I bet you when they were watching that Aldo McGregor fight, I mean, I bet you a lot of people cried that day. But anyways, it's not even like I'm some crazy Clay Guida fan. I was just so shocked that he was able to hang, and then he's winning that third round, which means he would have won the fight. Even if he didn't win the first 2, okay, he at least won one of those rounds, and he was pretty decisively winning that third round. So I was like, oh my God, Clay Guida's going to win this thing. And then he gets caught, because it would have been like it would have been such a massive upset. You know, and then he gets caught, and I cried. I had a tear. I didn't cry as in like I started blubbering, but you know what I mean. I had a tear. Roll down my cheek, and I was like, man, I feel really awful for that guy. Okay, who is starting off in the first fight here? Clay Guida, Eric Koch?
My friend Shaun.
Sean,
okay, I have this one.
Break it down.
This is actually pretty simple to break down, and it is causing me a lot of pain in terms of DraftKings. Clay Guida shot. He shot. He's going back up to 155. He's always said he wants to retire when he sucks. He's super close. I think he's better every Rafael Sunsao. You still hear me?
Yes.
Some weird audio thing that should happen. Okay, sorry about that. He's got a knockout win over Rafael Sunsao, and they were both at 45, I believe. My problem with Eric Koch, I think he's better, and I think Guida's clearly worn down, is that Eric Koch has been in, let's count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4. He has caused 4 fights to be canceled in the last 2 years. Holy fuck. But Koch is always been a highly thought of prospect. He lost in 2013 as a favorite. He was a favorite against Dustin Poirier and Ricardo Lamas. He lost both those fights, but he was favored. He should be Clay Guida. I'm pretty sure Clay Guida shot, but is Coke injured. And I've heard on the rumor mills that he could very well have one of those small nagging injuries, but he needs the paycheck.
So I assume you're not loudmouth. This is not loudmouth bet material for you.
No, it's not. I think Guida might be shot, but I can't trust Coke enough.
I'll take Coke.
You want a loudmouth bet, Kobe?
Absolutely, all day long.
I'll take Clay Guida. We'll keep it simple. I'm a big fan of apology videos because you are representing the loudmouth brand.
God.
And if you're willing to stake your name, it means that you are, and when you lose, it means you're misrepresenting the brand. So I feel like you should have to make a video apology for that. So all you got to do is just bust on, Facebook Live or Periscope or Instagram Live. Not Instagram Live because those videos get deleted. So you got to do either Twitter Live or Facebook Live so that way they hang out. Or you could pop on YouTube. Doesn't matter. And just
we'll do Facebook video.
We'll do a Facebook video. Do a little 30-second, hop on there. I want just. If you lose and if I lose, we'll both say either thing. Just apologize for misrepresenting the brand and apologize to our fans for, just having such an awful read and,
I fucking hate Chase Sherman.
You got it, brother. You
all right,
got
buddy.
I'm with this all day.
All right, talk to me about Vitor Miranda, Marvin Vettori. This fight, real quick, if I could chime in with it, man, I really was high on Marvin Vettori. I mean, I was all over him when he fought. Who did his fight? It was Antonio Carlos Jr. I mean, now granted, that loss doesn't seem nearly as bad now, but still. I mean, I
love ACJ. He's a top 10 guy.
Exactly. No, agree. That's what I'm saying. So the loss aged well. So I'll give it that. But man, I was high on him. So, go ahead, Kobe.
Well, I can tell you right now, Vitor Miranda, depending on where you look, plus 305 underdog. Why the fuck not? 13-5. Marvin Vettori 11-3. Now Vitor is 3-2, and Miranda's 3-2 in the UFC, but he was riding a 3-fight win streak until he lost the unanimous decision to Chris Camozzi, former K1 Fighting Network Turkey Grand Prix winner. 23-8-1 as a kickboxer, 18 KOs. And really outstanding when he's given space and has shown moments where he gets into trouble. He's able to persevere. This is a talented guy, and he has fought at heavyweight, believe it or not. The X factor with him right now is I guess he's a late starter. He's 38 years old. Now, Marvin Vettori is just 23 years old, so you got to think about ceiling. How much growth has he seen since his last fight? 1-1 in the UFC, brown belt in BJJ, lost his debut, then he went 11-2, so he had a nice little run, 8 wins by sub, 10 first-round finishes, trains in California with Kings MMA under Cordeiro, who has helped transition him to become a better striker with the wrestling and grappling, really trying to get him to become a complete fighter. But like I said, 23, so the ceiling's there, but there's no reason here not to look at Miranda as a potential dog here, plus 305. I think it's a toss-up. It's a 50-50 call, man, so those are my thoughts on this one. Awesome.
You can, Shaun, you can add anything to this if you want, but go ahead and talk about Esparza Moraes whenever you get done with that. Moroz.
I was so busy. I queued up my Esparza rant, but Miranda is I'll have at least a small share of him on DraftKings because 23 years old, he hits like a brick shit house because he used to hit at heavyweight. So interesting DraftKings play there. Esparza Moroz. Carla Esparza did fucking not lose to Randa Marcos.
Agreed.
Fucking Canada.
Agreed.
It's everyone gives Brazil shit, but some of the Canadian scoring in that card, I think were 2 or 3 I just did not get.
Kobe.
And that was one of them.
If Clay Guida wins, you have to denounce your Canadian citizenship.
No.
Man, you you're showing a lot of confidence in a guy that's, like Shaun said, pretty shot and has better days.
So you're saying if Clay Guida loses, then I'd have to denounce my American citizenship and move to Canada?
Oh, no, you are going to go on Facebook Live and you are just going to fucking just embrace and bask in the excellence of Kobe's Corner.
Oh, gosh. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. I was about to say, I was like, it won't take much to get me over to Canada, man. I'm already strongly considering it.
All right. Well, we got lots of room.
Shaun.
So Esparza Moreau, everyone I've seen in the MMA betting sharks group, but by the way, I've seen a lot of people shitting on Esparza. She beat Marcos. She struggled a little with the physicality of Juliana Lima, which I don't think Moreau is going to present. And she got knocked out by Joanna Champion. Okay, I'm going to scratch that one. Joanna's right up there. Probably, in my opinion, for sure, GOAT women's MMA.
Sure.
My opinion.
Yeah.
Moreau is, by the way, so she's 8-1, 3-1 in the UFC, but her UFC record, she caught JoJo Calderwood in the first round sub. Then she lost to Letourneau, was taken down in that fight. She lost to Christina Stanchuk, who was not ready for the UFC, was taken down in that fight, though. And then won a split decision against Danielle Taylor. It was a quick takedown, but Danielle Taylor got a takedown in that fight. She's 0 for 3 defending the takedown against in her UFC career. She's not defended one by Danielle Taylor, Christina Stanchuk, and Valerie Letourneau. I'm getting so riled up I can't talk. Somebody explain to me how she's going to stop a Carla Esparza takedown.
Carla Esparza may take her down 10 times.
She might. And I can't. Everyone's like, Esparza's trash. Moreau's is improved. Show me. Where? I don't understand. Esparza, all day, grappling. She's tough. And it's 115. There's not going to be a knockout. No one's going to get knocked out cold at 115. Telling me she's not going to score enough takedowns to win 2 or 3 rounds. I want no part of the Moreau's bet.
Yep.
It is a 115-pound women's fight, so careful with the volume on DraftKings because she could score 60, 70 points if she only gets 3 and lays there.
Yep.
It's possible. I personally cannot understand how people are high on Moreau's, and there's plenty of them out there. If this line closes, I will jump on. Right now it's at, let me find it just for a little reference here. Esparza, yeah, she's still minus 270. If that comes down under 200, I'm probably going to jump on for a couple of units.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, Esparza should very well dominate here. All right, Devin Powell taking on Daryl Horcher. Horcher making his return after that very, very serious motorcycle accident. I had talked to him a couple months after when he was still rehabbing. He wasn't training yet, and I was very fortunate to get him back on a couple weeks ago, so please go check out that interview. I'm a really big fan of him. I actually got a message from one of the other podcasters in our community who is also like a handicapper, and he was like, hey man, and he reached out to me, said the interview was good, which I was very shocked that he had listened to it, but he was asking me questions about kind of his mindset and stuff, so I think a lot of people were very interested. So I'll tell you, I think Horcher has confidence for days. I think he's very confident in his rehab. He's very confident in his arms, his shoulders, his knees. I think everything. I think he really trusts the fact that he took his time, and he trusts the doctors that he was working with. He trusts his physical therapy. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. And conversely, I honestly, nothing against the guy. I've talked to Devin Powell. He's an incredibly nice individual. He has his own gym out there. He's a great guy by all accounts. I have no idea why he's in the UFC. I have no idea. He doesn't bring anything to the table. Personally, I think he was fodder for Close because they fought in Arizona, which is where Close is from. He fights out of the MMA lab, and they wanted to feed him somebody, so they fed him Devin Powell because they knew that Powell's a guy that would stand and hang, or and is kind of a punching bag. And then now I think he's fodder for Horcher because they want to get Horcher back on track as a thank you for fighting Khabib as his debut. Good Lord, on a couple days' notice, and I think they're feeding him a win here. So I'm like all in on Horcher. I'm just about 100%, honestly. Kobe, talk to me.
Well, thanks for filling in the gap here because I'm looking at this debut against Khabib, but you took on 9 days' notice. Like, good luck finding someone else to fucking do that. And that was all the way back in April of 2016, so I wasn't aware of this accident. So I was thinking, like, how did the UFC not get this guy back in here quicker?
Yeah.
So Devin Powell is 0-1 in the UFC. He's a BJJ black belt. That's nothing to sneeze at. That grappling ability is there. He was discovered on Dana White's Looking for a Fight, and I think it was one of you two alluded to that some of the guys coming off of that show just aren't that good.
Asterisk, and it took him twice. He had to be on fucking twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that now.
He's got this strange look to him. I don't know what it is about the visual, but he's just a quirky or eccentric individual. I don't know if some of that is why he got picked up. But he did debut on short notice as well. I think he's a very strong grappler. If there were octagon jitters, there are out of the way. He's a plus 325 underdog. Now, Daryl Horcher, we just never got a real read on the guy. You know, you can't come in and fight Khabib and understand where the takedown defense is at because it's fucking Khabib, right? He had won 5 of 6. He's won 5 of 6. So he was on a 5-fight win streak coming in the UFC. He has 6 wins by KO. He's a very strong puncher and has shown he can be a complete fighter. To some, this might look like an attractive play for an underdog because they're both relatively new in terms of the UFC. I'm staying away from this. If I had to pick a winner, I'd take Daryl Horcher. Devin Powell has not impressed me yet, so we're going to have to see what happens. But this should be a victory for Daryl Horcher.
I'm very confident in Horcher. I'm very confident.
Yeah, go ahead in our DraftKings lineup when Kobe jumps out. Just go ahead and pencil him in.
Yeah, Horcher's in. Yeah.
By the way, Horcher's motorcycle accident, for those who are
happened in May.
It was really serious.
It was. He almost died.
Lacerated kidney. Like it was no joke.
No,
that's the X factor. That is the X factor in my mind for him. I said earlier, every fight I'm confident. There's kind of that something. For me, it's this accident. But if this is the spot where I'm making a stand on DraftKings, I will be all in on Daryl Horcher, and if he loses, I'll get drunk.
Daryl Horcher was my 4th interview ever.
Yeah, if you can come back from something like that that's life-threatening and you can show the resiliency and the toughness to get through that and make it back to the cage, you can get through Devin Powell.
Yeah. All right, let's keep moving on down the card here. We have Josh Gordon. It is Josh. Let me make sure that I'm not crazy.
Jared.
It is Jared. I was going to say Josh Gordon. I am an Ohio football fan. Jared Gordon taking on Michael Quinones.
And we got a lot of shit from the MMA betting group.
Oh, yeah.
Butchering his name because this fight was canceled.
Quinones. Michael Quinones taking on Jared Gordon. Both guys making their debut. Both guys were supposed to make their debut on one of the recent cards. I don't remember which one. But Jared Gordon had to pull out like a day or two before, right? Or the day of or something. Yeah, I had
food poisoning during the weight cut.
Why is okay, can we talk about this? No, this is another thing. We'll talk about this later. It seems like all of these guys who have to cancel a fight, they all have food poison. Like, are you sure you have food poison, or is your body rejecting the weight cut? I don't all these guys are not getting food poison the day before their fights. That's crazy to me. It's happened like 10 times.
Habib might be if he's pounding tiramisu, but
maybe right. All right, who's talking about this one? Is that Kobe?
This is me. I
this
believe.
Is you? Okay.
It is.
Talk to me.
We already talked about this fight once. I think it's Michelle Quinones. I think, unless I'm
probably.
Yeah. He had another UFC debut scheduled, and it was canceled, and that was against Volkanovski, and he should be thanking God that one got him canceled.
Yeah.
That dude, holy shit. Jared Gordon, the film I've watched from these guys, it's the same as last time. I think Quinones has more potential, so he's the pick, but I'm staying away. They both got decent. They both look like decent young prospects. I think Quinones hits a little harder, has a little more upside. He's the pick, but I really have no interest betting-wise or DraftKings-wise in this fight.
Well, there you go. Tony Martin, Johnny Case. I'm kind of all in on Tony Martin here. That's my other kind of all in on guy. I think I do not think Johnny Case is very good. Kobe, talk to me. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I'm going to go the other way, and just for anybody listening, I'm a breakdown guy. I enjoy analysis, these things, the handicapping side of things. I'm learning, but I see Johnny Case as a plus 115 favorite here, and I like it. Tony Martin, 3-3 in the UFC, 2-fight win streak. He's a brown belt. He's got 8 subs. He's athletic, good grappler, solid wrestling. Really learning the striking game, and someone I think that's evolving as a fighter. We got to remember these guys are young. These fights can really go either way. But Johnny Case has a lot of experience. He's got 27 professional fights. I mean, that's quite a bit. Solid striking and wrestling, 4-1 in the UFC, coming off a sub loss there. That was a fight of the night performance. 15 wins by KO, 3 subs, 14 first round finishes. When you look deeper at the record, 112-13. Very, very confident kid, and I like that a lot. And also the 12-fight win streak. He's also a very strong starter, and I think was close to the rankings and really, created his own little highlight reel on the local scene. Good wrestling. I don't know, man. He's a part of the Power MMA gym. I think he would be probably, if I had to pick a favorite on this card, I would take Johnny Case. He's pretty cheap too.
Yeah. So, I agree with you that Johnny Case definitely has the amount of fight experience. I would definitely argue that Tony Martin has the strength of schedule, and it's not even close.
Yeah, wait. I would say I want to Kobe here for a second, because I went through it in the exercise, and I went through Johnny Case 4-1 in the UFC. His 5 opponents have a combined UFC record of 5-10.
Yeah, those are good points, and again, these are things that I did quickly. So,
sure.
Thank you for pointing that out.
No, I mean, I just think
I am just his strength of schedule is really worrisome.
My problem with Johnny Case too is that we talk about losses and wins maybe not aging well. Boy, getting subbed out by Jake Matthews, does that not age well? I mean, that did not age well at all. Jake Matthews turned out to be basically just like a Stage North cut. And speaking of Stage North cut, one of the guys that Johnny Case beat was that Francisco Trevino guy. And if I remember correctly, he went to a decision with him. Kind of a close decision with him. Yeah, I'm really not. I understand it. It's not like I'm not sitting here going, man, I don't get it. Of course I get it. I mean, neither one of these guys are very proven. But,
yeah, exactly.
But and the other thing is too, I don't know if you guys know this, there's actually some bad blood here. I interviewed Tony Martin. You should check out the interview. There's some bad blood between these guys, like actual bad blood. Like they were fighting in the same promotion. Johnny Case, according to Tony Martin, of course, this is all coming from him, but Johnny Case had turned down on the regional scene and in the UFC, has turned down his fights at least 5 times. And that this was one where the UFC, I guess, made him take the fight. Because if you notice, Johnny Case hasn't fought in a while. So that's what Tony Martin said. Tony Martin said that this fight was supposed to happen back in the regional days, but Johnny kept not taking it. And then they got in the UFC, and he had been pushing to get this fight in the UFC, and Johnny kept not taking it. And then now he says the UFC forced it. So I don't know. Take that for whatever you want to take it for.
Yeah, I like that Martin's been in the cage with he went to the cards with Nurmagomedov and lost. He got subbed out in the second round by Dariush, and he's 3-1 since that.
Yeah, man. Coming back from adversity, man. Talk about some adversity. I mean, good Lord, they did not give him an easy path.
No.
I'm glad they've lightened up on him a little bit.
Not a fight I'll be wagering any money on.
No, and you probably shouldn't. All right, the last fight, I guess this one is Shaun. Let me get back to my main screen here. Shaun, talk to me about the Josh Stansberry, Jeremy Kimball fight. I know that you are a huge fan of Jeremy Kimball, so talk to me.
He's a human fucking dumpster fire. And you know what? I hope it singes his fucking stupid beard off.
Ouch!
Got him.
My problem is that I want to, and I like Josh Stansberry as a person. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, so you get to know these guys a little bit better.
Agreed.
Which is just, I'm trying to temper that kind of outside looking in, because he didn't look good in even his win against Corey Hendricks and his loss against Devin Clark. He auditioned for the Ultimate Fighter once before the season he was on, and he was winning the fight and hit a takedown and blew his knee out in the middle of that first round of fighting that happened. That first round of fights to get into the house.
Yep.
I think the more I watch of him, I want to think he's better than he is. I think he's going to be a low-level guy in the UFC, but he's at 205 pounds, which is the dumpster fire division of the UFC right now. And Jeremy Kimball just got marked by Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Yeah, but that's what he does, though. De Lima either beats you really quickly or loses.
But Kimball got hit a couple times and turtled up.
Yeah.
I did not like the way he looked. He
also took on a very short notice. Very short notice. Wasn't even able to cut the weight.
He was subbed. Am I looking at my notes right now? I got to look back at this again. Did he get subbed out by Chris Camozzi at some point?
I think so. I think back in the day. I think that
How the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, I think it's old though.
Yeah, it is. He was on a 4-fight win streak in regionals, 3 KOs, but they're low-level, light heavyweight fights.
Yeah.
I just, he held Devin Clark to 1 takedown, which is good. So his takedown defense is there. He's more technical. He's just going to be more technical than Kimball. I don't think Kimball's even close to a UFC fighter. So I'm going to play Stansberry. And the way this card is shaping up on DraftKings,
Don't say it.
The more teams they build, the more Stansberry I have it. It makes me
say it.
I don't like it. I'm not all in. Not all in. But I have enough Stansberry on DraftKings that makes me nervous.
To have a bad day.
I recognize it. I recognize it, but I look at my options and I go, where else am I going?
God. Kobe.
So I like Stansberry. But this is the same as me picking on Cyril Asker, and that worked out great last week.
It did. Yeah, and it did, and I was dead fucking wrong about that. Thankfully, he never actually made a bet.
Yeah, damn.
Kobe, tell us where to find you, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, man, hit me up on YouTube. Just simply type Kobe's Corner into the search engine. Find my channel. If you like the content, please subscribe. If not, thanks for checking me out anyway. I think, and I firmly believe, I have the #1 technical pre-fight breakdown in the game right now. So go check it out. Tell me if I'm wrong. Follow me on Twitter at Kobe519. And thank you guys once again. It's always a blast breaking fights down on the Loudmouth MMA podcast. And last but not least, Kyle Steele, I look forward to watching your Facebook Live video announcing me as the greatest of all time.
All right, Clay Guida. No pressure, Clay Guida. No pressure, my friend.
I have a bunch of Coke, too, so I'm hoping Kyle
is wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
We shall see. All right, Kobe. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
Take it easy, bud.
All right, Shaun. Let's talk some DraftKings, man. I haven't even looked at salaries yet, so this would be really cool. Haven't even looked at salaries. We're going to go through the same way that we did last time, and the team that we are picking is the team that is going into my year-long league. So whoever's in the year-long league, this is the team I'm going to put in there, so that way no matter what, it gets played. But I need to find upcoming...
Are you going to put us in the $27 main event this week, or Jesus?
Listen.
We'll talk.
Okay. So, let's just start with the Josh Stansberry, Jeremy Kimball fight. Do you feel comfortable playing either one of them? Josh Stansberry for 8-7. Stansberry at 8-7. You're talking about a guy who is beyond untested here. And Jeremy Kimball's first fight in the UFC is kind of irrelevant. So I don't feel comfortable at 8-7 there.
All right. Well, I mean, the way we did it last week, and it worked out well, is if either one has a concern, we
just don't worry about it. All right.
So
Tony Martin, Johnny Case.
I want to play Tony Martin as like a last resort here.
Okay, so Tony Martin, last resort.
We can circle back to him if we have room.
We already kind of talked about the Jared Gordon Quinones fight.
No thanks.
Yeah, I don't really have a good read on that. I already know about Daryl Horcher, Devin Powell.
Put Horcher in.
Yeah.
Lock in.
Esparza Moroz.
The problem is the price on Esparza.
8-9 is a bit much, but we might be able to fit him because I think I know who we're going to go as our really cheap person here. Vittori Miranda. The price, I think the pricing's off on that fight.
So do I, but do you want to go? The problem is, do you want to go Miranda at 71 or Christensen at 69?
I'd rather go Christensen at 69. I think that makes a lot more sense. So let me just go lock in Christensen then. Okay, we already talked about Guida Koch. BJ Penn.
We can't have that one because we disagree.
We're not doing BJ Penn deceiver.
Stay away from that fight.
Tim Means Alex Garcia fight. If we have to play Alex Garcia, we can, because I'm not necessarily crazy about Tim Means here. But let's get to that in a second. We'll see what we have left.
Let's jump ahead to something I know we agree on. Let's just go ahead and put in Michael Chiesa.
Okay, let's do Michael Chiesa because I think I agree. So that leaves us
8,600
as a top tier. So we could play your boy Coke, but we're not doing it. So that basically leaves us Johnny Hendricks or Felice Herrig.
No, I don't think the scoring output's going to be high enough there. I would almost. What we have left? Could we fit Hendricks, Martin, and Stansberry? Not Martin. I'd prefer Coke. Well, do you like Johnny Hendricks enough to trust him?
Because
he could get knocked out in 30 seconds.
He could get knocked out in 30 seconds, or he could not score that many points. I mean, that's my problem with him is I don't know if there's a pathway there. But I mean, what else would we do? You would go away from Christensen?
Looking at our team, just the way this DraftKings scoring works, we need a wrestler. Like, a wrestler's going to score points.
Yeah.
Is it Johnny Hendricks or is it Carlos Esparza? Pick your poison.
Well, you could do both. You would do Hendricks and Esparza.
That leaves you with 8,500, and then Tony Martin at 84 fits in.
Yep. So so the team I'm looking at is Martin, Horcher, Esparza, Chiesa, Hendricks, Christensen.
That's what we built. So let's dive back in here.
So let me just look. We could go up from Horton. No, we're not sure as hell not doing that, and we're not going to go down.
I would. Well, you can always go down. You can always leave more money on the table. That's how we accidentally got away from Ulka Sasaki last week. If you're newish to DraftKings or just in general, especially in tournaments, in cash games, I try and leave no more than 500 on the table. In tournaments, you can leave 1,000, 1,200 on the table and feel fine.
But I mean, starting from the bottom, I mean, we're not playing Devin Powell.
Right.
I mean, there's an argument to play Vitor Miranda, but I'm not.
But we can't fit him.
But I'm not messing with it. And then you got Alex Garcia. I was saying if you replaced, say, Christensen, who would you rather play? See, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's anybody I'd rather play than Christensen. I don't like Alex Garcia more than Christensen.
Those three are my dogs I'm looking at this week, by the way, like the punts I'm looking at.
So I just say go with the cheapest. I mean, he's the one that's giving you the most discount, you know?
And he's fighting an unproven guy. So yeah, I like Christensen, and then
so really the argument is do you go down from Johnny Hendricks to Herrig?
No.
Do you go down from Hendricks to one of the Quinones Jared Gordon guys?
No.
Or do you go down and that's it? I mean, okay, so with Chiesa, do you go up from Chiesa?
No.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't play with what we have left. Here's for everybody, just kind of trying to follow this along in their head. Working our way up from the bottom. People we are not playing: Powell, Miranda, Garcia, Moroz, BJ Penn, Kimball, Guida, Boch, Case, Kish. Pass on all of them.
Yep.
Now you got Jared, Gordon, and Quinones. No. Lee, we are playing Chiesa. And by the way, in cash games, you could totally stack that fight. I probably am going to in cash games. Herrig, not active enough. Coke and Kimball are the two guys left that would be interesting, 86 and 8,700. But, so you can go up from Hendricks to Coke, but you're in on Guida.
Yes.
So as a team, we can't do that. And then Asparza, do you want to go up from Asparza to Tim Means? We both agree.
No.
So I think we're pretty locked in at Horcher, Christensen, Chiesa, Esparza, Hendricks, and Tony Martin.
I'm in.
Wait, hang on one second. I might just give away one of my lineups in a second because I think we might have just built one of the teams I have in the 3-injury max.
That's funny.
Spitballing.
Let's see.
I had to go look it up real quick. And my teams are still subject to change, but I always build those guys and then kind of work my way from there. No. May all statuses. We had Christensen, right? I only have Christensen 1 right now.
Yeah, we have Christensen.
So I built a team of. No, it's different.
Okay, cool.
It's different.
All right, well that was fun, man.
I like Coke.
We gotta start doing this every week. Okay, tell us where to find you, Shaun, and let's wrap this bad boy up.
I mean, I'm right here on the Loudmouth MMA podcast. I'm also I do the Daily Fantasy Scramble, looking for DraftKings value plays on the Daily Fantasy MMA channel. And please, guys, give me a follow on Twitter at Shaun, ShaunEyehas. Phonetically, Shaun Eyehas. Give me a follow on Twitter. I'd appreciate it. And I'm always there talking fights with whoever will listen and taking plenty of crap and giving it back in return. It's fun stuff.
Are you still doing the sweat?
I'm taking a break from the sweat. I think I'm going to start doing that for pay-per-views only, just because of just time constraints and trying to, right as the card is going down with a screaming 4-month-old. It's not super easy.
Yeah, understandable.
So I think I'm going to do the sweat for pay-per-view cards.
Awesome, man. Well, there you go. It was a pleasure. Of course, guys, you can find me at Loudmouth MMA on Twitter, Loudmouth MMA on Facebook, Loudmouth MMA on Instagram, Loudmouth MMA wherever you listen to podcasts. The breakdowns are not the only thing that we do. If you enjoy the breakdowns, I think you will also enjoy our other shows. Please go check out my interviews, which are kind of pretty much only me. And then, of course, I do the Around the Cage show with a group of guys.
Which, by the way, I mean, doesn't it, it's based on Around the Horn? So
yes.
Where's my special guest spot on Around the Cage?
Listen, you'll be on there at some point, I promise. You'll be on there at some point, I promise. This past week, we had Brian Caraway, the episode that came out yesterday. Brian Caraway fucking killed it. He was awesome. Is he still
dating Misha Tate?
No.
Is that still a thing? No.
I'm
way behind on that shit. I don't follow that stuff.
And it did not end well, as far as from what I remember. Yes. So Brian Caraway fucking killed it. I mean, for real. Just he was so awesome. And before that, the week before that, we had Eddie Truck Gordon on, and he killed it. You know, both of them made it to the finals in the weeks that they were on. So, yeah, man, they nailed it. So definitely go check out that episode. I also do fight companions for every single fight card. This fight card will be no different. I will be doing a live fight companion on Sunday. But I guess before we go, do you want to give any Bellator bets out?
Let me go jump on over.
You don't have to go. You don't have to go into detail or anything. I mean,
no. I'm just gonna look straight bets. I am admittedly a Chael Sonnen fanboy. I will take Chael Sonnen at -145. Probably just one unit there because it's
Bellator.
I love Chael Sonnen. Admittedly, amuses the hell out of me. And Vanderlei Silva shot and had shoulder and knee surgery like a year ago. So I also really like Phil Davis against Ryan Bader. -120 seems close. And Lorenz Larkin at -175 is really interesting. And for Fedor and Mitrione, the under 1.5 rounds is -170. I might give that a look.
Who is the favorite in that fight?
Mitrione's a -125.
Yeah, I would take that.
I want no part of that. It's too finicky. I'd rather bet the under.
Understandable. All right, cool, Shaun. Appreciate it, man.
That's it, man.
Always a pleasure.
Yep, have a good week, and hopefully if things go well, maybe I'll talk to you during the fight companion.
Yes, I'll be giving you a call.
All right, take it easy.
Yep, talk soon.